along and whatever when he first meets Zelda. So yeah, then Darunia knows where he's from or whatever, and he's quite angry at him, wants him to leave. But Link tells him that he can be of help to him, and he doesn't ask for the stone. He just says, well, what is it that you need help with, and I'm gonna prove to you that I'm, not here to take your stuff. And he's like, well, okay. So he proceeds to explain the whole thing about Ganondorf, and that's where it's shown in the movie or whatever, the actual scene where Ganondorf comes to him and talks to him. And, yeah, and all the Dodongos that are running around in the cavern eating their crop. And actually are in their forge. And so that there also adds, not a ticking clock necessarily, like, I should probably clarify what that is. I think most people know what that is, but when you screenwriting classes and stuff like that, they tell you that anytime you want to add tension to a scene, you should have a ticking clock. And a ticking clock is doesn't have to be a literal clock, but it can be, like, Aladdin's a good example, where you have the whole fight against Jafar is intensified by the fact that Jasmine is in an hourglass, which is filling up with sand, which is going to suffocate her. But you need to have something that you can cut to that represents, time is running out, or that this is serious business. Oh, look, my footage speeded up. Isn't that adorable? Okay. So, this isn't an actual ticking clock because it doesn't give us a specific measure of time. I think I'm talking faster as I'm watching this go faster. Weird. Okay. But this Dodongo's Cavern, like I said, is a forge. It's, so they make bombs there, and so the implication is that the Dodongos, are multiplying and are wandering around in this cavern eating the flowers, and they're also all over the forge, and because there's a lot of explosives there, it could blow sky high at any time, and he's going to be in this small cavern. Excuse me, a yawn burped. Yerp? Is that called a yerp? I'm not sure what that is. But, so yeah, it could cave in on him, or he could be trapped in there, or he could just blow up. There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom. So that intensifies the whole thing. Oh, the Lizalfos. The Lizalfos are in the movie. These little hopping lizards that attack you. They're annoying and they make awful noises too. But that is neither here nor there. So, once he enters the cavern, and he doesn't have to blow it open, it's not plugged, people just kind of know to stay out of it, I guess. And the Dodongos could get out, but they don't want to, because it's, I don't know, maybe, okay, you can tell me in the comments if you think this doesn't match up, but the way I have it written here is that the Dodongos don't have any reason to leave the cavern, because they like that environment. They like that habitat. They like living in this little lava volcano area. They don't eat Gorons. I mean, they will attack Gorons. They'll burn them to a crisp. But they eat bomb flowers, and they've got a host of bomb flowers down there. So they didn't have any reason to leave the cavern. They didn't lock it up. And none of the Gorons want to go down there. So I don't have a plot point of it being locked up or anything like that. It's just a matter of Darunia telling them, well, go in there and, defeat these things if you want to prove to me that, if you don't want me to beat you senseless. So Link, eager to prove to Darunia that he's on the up and up, and he really doesn't have any other option at this point, goes in to defeat these things. And then we have the Lizalfos and the Dongos are the main things he faces. The little Beamos, the things that shoot the blue laser beams out of their eyes, are not in the script as far as I know. At least I don't have them written here. I have that he faces the bats and that attack him in the cave, and they're not anything major. They're just sort of there all the time watching him. They become a harassment at some point. The living statues, these Armos, aren't in it either. They appear later, though. I think they appear actually in the Forest Temple, if I remember correctly. And I might not remember correctly. It's been a long time. But, no, here he faces a pair of Lizalfos that I don't believe have any lines, but that appear to talk to each other in that weird yelpy noise thing that they do, that squeaky thing. So there's moments where they're obviously talking to each other and communicating, and sometimes mocking each other. You get the feeling that they are competing to kind of see who can kill this kid first, and are each sure that one is better than the other. And Link turns that against them in the screenplay. They kill each other. They actually stab each other. But yeah, and past that, and they're the main things keeping him from fighting the head honcho Dodongo at the bottom of the cavern. And so anyway, apart from that, it's a very vague outline. All I have here is that he enters the Dodongo's cavern, and he kind of, stumbles around in the dark for a minute before falling into a pit and waking up surrounded by all these sleeping Dodongos. At which point it turns into sort of a... my mental image was that since it's a little low in the ground, it's one of those things where if you step on the ground funny, steam pops out of it, and there's magma, not just below the surface of the earth because you die, but there's pools of magma here and there. So it's like a hippo pit, if you can kind of imagine Dodongos as big, nasty hippos. And don't laugh, hippos are serious business. Here, hippos kill more people than any other mammal in Africa, if I remember correctly. Not any animal, that would be the mosquito. But hippos are bad news. So sort of imagine a big hippo pit full of Dodongos, and you wake one up and they all start attacking. And oh, by the way, this part you're watching here, as you may have noticed, took me forever. Remember I said that thing about the control stick, you push it just a little bit, and I'm not going to repeat the control problems I have, but it's all control stick related. It's very jerky. So, yeah, fun. I suck so hardcore. But anyway, so he manages to escape the snapping Dodongos, and, Navi is helpful and finds a way down into the place where the king is, who's... and that's when the Lizalfos come into play, the lizards. And once he gets them to kill each other, he kind of gets passed into the area where the king is, and they fight. And that's what's written on the outline. And I get the feeling if I did script it, that I probably would have cut some of this, because some of it might be extraneous or whatever. But again, it's not as... this is why this commentary is probably going to be this Let's Play, I guess. It feels more like a commentary now, doesn't it? It's probably going to be the lamest out of all of them, because this was a part of the thing that I didn't script, and so when I look back through it, I actually realized quite a bit of it is very lame. Yes, I just got killed by that lizard. I had to restart. Thankfully, I went ahead and didn't tape that part of it. I went right back to here. Anyway, so yeah, but yeah, this is a learning process for me, because when I go back and look at this, I realize just how much of it needs to be changed or whatever, and changed up, because I have in here that the Lizalfos are in there, and I think it would be interesting, the idea of these two things. But remember when I told you that those two brothers that you meet in Hyrule Castletown become villains later? Kind of recurring villains for Link? Well, that hasn't changed, and that is scripted. And so those two Lizalfos, I'm seeing a theme here. Like, that seems redundant to me, to have another set of two villains that, it seems a little repetitive to me. So I think when I go through and script it, and you can always make the movie shorter or whatever, have other scenes with Ganondorf, have other scenes with Saria or whatever. Yeah, I think I would have cut those lizards, but it says here that I have the lizards in here. So there you go. Let me find something more interesting to talk about in the time that I have left. Because, like I said, there's not much to this. Obviously, you know how this ends. He fights King Dodongo. Oh, yeah. Okay, that ticking clock I mentioned. So I have a little more to talk about. So the Dodongos are in the forge, right? And the forge is, you can kind of imagine, you probably know what it looks like, weaponry and bombs that are half-made, and, it's just a little bit of a mess. Like, there's this scene where Link is in the forge, and he angers a Dodongo, and the Dodongo is shambling with his big two stubby legs through some spilt gunpowder. It's about to breathe fire, and Link actually, appeases it with, like, food, getting it to not breathe fire at him, because because there's, like, all this gunpowder strewn around in there in this little hub of, a lot of explosives. So, the problem is, once he gives the thing the bomb flower and he's trying to tear it open with his teeth, he gets so frustrated that it's not opening, I guess, that he blasts it. And so the whole thing does go up in a big explosion. But that's close to the end anyway. So So the way he defeats the King Dodongo is in relation to the thing I just mentioned with trying to feed the other Dodongo to get him to not blow up the place, and it doesn't work. But it turns out to be a good thing because it opens up the skull that I mentioned earlier. Like, the forge is underneath that skull, and when it blows open, it releases the lower jaw. I guess it cracks off the skull's head, and it's messy. And inside of it is it's just like in the game. Inside of it is the king sleeping, and so the way he defeats the king is, once again, he fools him by getting him to eat bomb flowers or whatever, but like I said, they can eat bomb flowers. That's their diet. So he gets him to eat an actual bomb. Okay, all of a sudden the gameplay footage is going to slow down here. Look, it's normal speed again. Isn't that cool? So he gets the actual bomb from the forge I mentioned. It falls through when not falls through, but he takes it up with him when the forge explodes and he goes up through the skull or something like that. I don't know. Again, this is an outline. Things need to be tweaked. I'm not reading off the script here. I'm reading off an approximate 6-page outline I have here of what should happen in the whole thing. Also, this part where I get blasted right here and I'm running away, the reason I'm doing that, I clearly know what to do, as you can see in the battle after this. My phone was ringing at this time. It was my brother, I don't get to see my brother that often, but I hadn't decided whether I should pause the game or not, and I did end up pausing it after this. You may have seen a little white flash. That was me pausing it and stopping the recording software and everything. But I picked up the phone and I was trying to talk to him, and I just got blasted. So I'm talking to him all throughout this boss battle here. I'm like, oh, blah, blah, blah. So, and I will go eat breakfast with him at the Waffle House tomorrow. That will become dated very soon, but as of this Let's Play, I'm going to eat breakfast with my brother at the Waffle House tomorrow morning. Anyway, he fools the King Dodongo into eating the bombs that he got from the forge, and unlike bomb flowers, those were not meant to be eaten by, it doesn't appear to do anything at first. He eats it, and then he just thinks he's doomed because it, grins or whatever and is about to blast him, and he's really close to this magma pit that you see here. But it doesn't do anything until it hits his stomach, and his stomach acid, like I said, they have very strong stomach juices, so once it hits his stomach, it explodes, and then it's messy. So, it doesn't blow him up into gross, nasty pieces, because I didn't want this to be a gory movie, but he rolls around and writhes around in pain and falls into the lava and disappears. So, that's pretty much all there is to say about this here. It's over now. I'm sorry, this is definitely the weakest and worst of the Let's Play / commentaries, because I didn't have a whole lot to go off of. And this is just sort of a transition into better parts of the screenplay. I guess I can talk briefly about Daryunia's character, because it is here or whatever. But after he defeats, the King Dodongo, and the whole place is blowing sky high, Daryunia isn't waiting for him outside. He goes in and gets him and rescues him. And he's like, commends him for his bravery or whatever and gives him the ruby. Daryunia is very likable, I guess. At least I want him to be. But he's a guy of few word. Bonk, bonk. Ouch. He, like, when they first meet him or whatever, Link is not the first entertainer in that scene that I mentioned, and, the other entertainer is Goron, who's, I didn't write in here what act this is, but whatever he does doesn't please Daryunia, and he, doesn't get the best treatment for it. So at first, like, it looks like Daryunia is going to be very scary and frightful and possibly evil, but he's not. He's just doesn't accept anything but the best from everyone. So he's really hard on people. Even though he's not like a stern, humorless guy, he's just kind of hard on folks in general. So I don't know, I guess that's kind of the way I wrote him, but he still has lust for life and everything. I don't know. I wanted Daryunia to be a really likable character, but I guess that would, the reason I don't have more details and I'm stuttering like an idiot is because, again, I didn't write the script for this part, so it's hard to stumble through it and just basically say what I have in here. Anywho, so that's the Goron's Ruby. So yeah.